Hello, beautiful souls. We are here for our weekly astrology, and today we're talking about Mars entering Aries. So, this is kind of a big transit that we will be talking about. Actually, I'm going to, I'm going to show that later. So, today, what we're going to do is we're going to go through Mars entering Aries for all signs of the zodiac. And so you can watch your sun, moon, and rising, but keep in mind that it's going to be your rising sign that's probably going to be the most accurate, especially when you're considering like what's happening in the world. So if you're jumping on, say hello, let me know you're here. We have a fun, exciting, I think fast-paced transit to talk about. And I don't know how you all have felt, but normally Aries season, around March when the sun enters Aries, I tend to feel a bit of an uplift or like, I'm ready to start new things. This year did not feel that way. I felt like such a slug, and I'm blaming Mars and Pisces for that. But no, really, I do think that, Mars and Pisces is much more languid, much more chill, much more going with the flow. And Mars in Aries, that's when we're going to pack that punch. So this will be a time where I think we'll be starting new things. And so in this video, what I'm doing is going through the forecast for Mars entering Aries for all signs. So the cool thing is that it's going to start on April 30th. That's when Mars will enter Aries. But this one lasts till June 9th. So this reading, this check-in, this report will be valid for quite a while. So you're more than welcome to come check back as Mars progresses through Aries and see how it still resonates. And so yeah, that's what we'll be doing today. And I wanted to talk about something interesting about Mars entering Aries. And that is that Mars enters Aries on April 30th. That is this Tuesday. But April 29th, Venus enters Taurus. So we're going to have Venus in her own sign, the sign of her rulership, and Mars in his own sign, the sign of his rulership, at the same time. So that's kind of cool. And what's even cooler about this to me, because, the odds are this can happen sometimes, right? Because Venus rules two signs and it goes through all the signs in about a year, a little less than a year. And then Mars, takes 2 years to go around the circle, right? So the odds of it rules two signs. So the odds of this happening it's not that rare. But what is special about it is Mars right now rules the north node, and Venus right now rules the south node. So Venus ruling the south node because the south node's in Libra, and Mars ruling the north node because the north node is in Aries, means that both of the planets that rule both of the nodes are going to be in their home signs at the same time. I think it's kind of cool. So, it just kind of gives us more of a stable footing when it comes to the transiting nodes, which are going to represent kind of like, I always think of the nodes transiting as like what we're kind of attacking, because especially what the north node is transiting is like the area of life we're ready to attack, because I think of the Vedic perspective of the north node being the head of the dragon, and it's always hungry. So it's like the aimless hunger, right? It's not considered positive in that tradition, because it's like it has no body, it has nothing else but hunger. Whereas the south node in Vedic is the tail of the dragon. It just wants to whap things away. And what it wants to whap away is things that are like of this world. So it wants to let go of the things of this world. Okay, so now that we got into that, let's talk about how this is going to go for the different signs of the zodiac. We're going to start with Aries and we're going to go through to Pisces. I'm going to check on the comments and then we're going to get into it. First of all, before we do that, Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who has been putting timestamps on the videos. Sometimes I do these and I get to them right away. Other times I'm really busy and then you guys take over. And so, especially I've seen some of the last videos, a lot of you have helped out with the timestamps. So thank you for everyone who is doing that. And okay, you can also book with me. If you have tried to book recently, my schedule is not open yet. It will be open. I'm going to open it up today, actually, after this, for March, or what's after April? May. Oh my God, what month is it? Yeah, I'm going to open it up for May soon. So if you have been waiting or you were like, why couldn't I get in? I do open it up at the end of the month for the next month. And if you want to know that when it does happen, if you want to like be notified when it opens up so you get the time that you want, so you get preference on that, you can join my email list. There's a link in the description. You'll get one of my free guides, and then you will be the first to know when I open up readings or have a sale on something or do a course, which I am probably going to do something soon. And it's probably going to be on the nodes. So that's another good reason to sign up, is that you won't miss it. And also, if I ever get canceled, you can still find me in my content. Because that happens a lot these days, especially to spiritual people. All right, so let's go on now. I'm going to check on the comments, have a few drinks of coffee, and then we are going to get into the broadcast. Amber Marie, hey. Moon Woman says hello. And Say the Goddess, this is a nice one. Glad I caught alive. Your videos are incredibly helpful, uplifting, and super easy to digest. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you find them that way. And Sade is sipping your coffee too. It was a two coffee day for me this morning. I already had one. And I knew I was going to need another one, but that's okay. I'm happy to be here. Okay, so let's go on to our broadcast. And I'm going to pull up the chart and let me get it situated the right way here. Wait, is that right? Let me see. Okay, that is right. That is right. So here we go. And for these broadcasts, you guys, we're always using whole sign. And the reason is to do a general reading for a group of people. That's the only way to do it. I use whole sign and Placidus in my practice. Okay, so I have one more thing I have to check, and then we will be ready to go. All right, so let's go ahead with the sign of Aries. I set a timer, because what happens if I don't is I spend too much time on my favorite ones. It's true. Okay, so here we go. Let's move it over here. Make sure you guys can see that. So keep in mind there's other stuff happening this week. I'm just picking the stuff that I think is going to be the best, the most important, or usually the stuff I think you're going to feel the most, etc. So that's the one thing. We have other things happening during the week, but today we're just zeroing in on this one aspect, which is Mars entering Aries. So here we have Mars entering Aries for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Mars entering your first whole sign house means you're probably going to be busier. That's the biggest thing about Mars, is it brings activity and stimulation to that area of life. And the first house is your body. It's your life direction. It's what you are doing. It's like what direction you're heading. So when we see transits to the first house, we see bigger life changes. And in the case of Mars, sometimes you have more conflict you have to deal with. Sometimes it's not bad conflict. Sometimes it's good conflict. It's like the fight you want to fight or the thing you want to attack next. Sometimes you have to assert yourself more when Mars is in your first house. Sometimes somebody will be trying to fight with you or trying to argue with you or just pissing you off. You can get pissed off. You can also just be, like I said, busier. Now that could be on your own accord. Like you are going to be more athletic. You want to get moving. You want to do some cardio. You're trying to go hiking. You're physically moving your body more. It could be that you're packing everything up to move. It could be something else like that where you're busier because you just have more on your plate. And it tends to be not just things that are mental or intellectual, but also things that are physical, right? Like you're moving your house on top of doing your work, that kind of thing. You're literally moving more. So yeah, Mars is like heat and it's activity. So I think of like when water boils and steam goes everywhere and it expands, it's like your life kind of becomes that metaphor. Now, you can kind of harness this energy because you can get a lot done. And when Mars is in Aries, you want to get stuff done and it's going to apply to you in your life. But let's consider the fact that for Aries, Mars also rules your 8th house of sex, death, and other people's money. And it's in the first house of you and your identity and your life direction. So this could mean other people in your life are influencing your life direction right now, or your relationships are a big factor in changes you're making or things that you're doing, or you're simply linking up with other people to make things happen. This could be business partnership type of stuff, or it could be like you and your lover are going hiking more, or you and your lover taking more trips, or you and your husband or your wife are going somewhere, or you're doing certain activities together. You're planning movement of some kind. Yeah. And then, when it comes to like spiritual stuff for that 8th house ruler in the first, this could be really embracing. This is not going to be everyone, but some of you may be really embracing psychic work as your identity or psychology as your identity. Topics of the 8th house can be infused into your identity, but it's probably not a lifelong thing. It's probably like at this time of your life, some kind of 8th house topic is more of a part of who you are at the moment. That could be grieving or dealing with death of some kind. Doesn't mean it's not a prediction that someone will die. But it's like maybe you're identifying as someone who's overcome all these grieving situations, losses. Or maybe you're someone who is like, I am going to be more into psychology now. Or you're like, I do want to be psychic and talk to the other side. Or I am now telling everyone that I read tarot. Right? So think of how the idea of the other side of the veil fits into your life already, as that is the most likely to be the thing that it is for you. Okay. So like, it's also like inheritances, taxes. So some of you, it might be like taking on something like that. But if it is, it doesn't quite feel like that the way this is situated. It feels a little bit more like paying off debt might influence some of your life decisions, or investing might influence some of your life decisions. Or maybe you are taking out money from an investment and using it to further your life in some way. This is not financial advice, just what I see for Aries. So we're going to move on now to our next sign, which is going to be, Taurus. Okay, so for Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Rising, Mars entering Aries is going through your 12th house. That 12th house is going to be isolation, loss. It can be our time out, time alone, time to be quiet. It can be like meditation, contemplation, psychology, spirituality, things that are hard to see unless you look at them. So one of the things about Mars going through the 12th, if you're trying to get in touch with repressed anger, Mars in the 12th may show you that. It might highlight that as a focus. Mars is your 12th house ruler. So the 12th house ruler in the 12th is kind of like the meditation. It's almost like the if we all have it's like your inner monk has a temple it can sit at now. It's like you're giving your inner monk the temple. You're giving your inner monk the altar. It's having that part of you that wants to see things more deeply, understand your own psychology, help other people, guide them through the underworld, get into altered states of consciousness, go into the void, right? That part of you is like, we really, really want to do that right now. So this can just put you more in touch with your spirit. It can put you more in touch with your spirit guides. For Tauruses out there who do like ceremony, any kind of spiritual ceremony, it can put you in touch with that. You could want to go on a retreat right now, Tauruses. Doesn't mean everyone can. Everyone's going to be different. But that's something, those are some of the main things. Now, let's factor in that Mars rules the 7th house. So that's relationships. So Tauruses who are in a relationship are going to find their relationships are more focused on 12th house things. That could go anywhere from couples counseling to spiritual work together to just hanging out in the bedroom a little longer than normal. Because that 12th house is like the things we do in private behind closed doors that nobody else sees. And it's Mars, right? So now for some of you, if you're in a relationship, you're somehow isolated from that person. The person is isolated from you. Worst case scenario, your partner is in prison or in jail or something. Hopefully that's not most of you. But it could happen. It could happen. Now, what else do you need to know about this as far as your life? Well, the 7th house is also other people. So it could be that, you're more isolated from your friendships, or that when it comes to friendships, you're going to have more private conversations, or that your friendships are going to take on the 12th house topics of psychology, of quietude, of your innermost thoughts, of people's inner demons. That could be you or the other person. So maybe more of your friends are talking to you about loss, or talking to you about getting sober, or talking about recovering from mental health stuff, or the dark night of the soul spiritually. It could be that. It could be your relationships take on that flavor. But Mars is going to stimulate that 12th house, which is again going to be the isolation, the potential of loss of something. Now that don't get all scared like everyone's going to break up with someone, because think about it logically. Mars goes through this sign once every 2 years, roughly. So it's not every 2 years we don't break up with people. But if you were already going to break up and Mars goes through here, this would probably be the time. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, but you could also just be praying more, meditating more, and really like having being more driven, right, to do those 12th house things, which is like see beyond the veil, see beyond the obvious, see the hidden meaning of everything, see the reason for everything, see the spirit guides or the deeper connection, or the even the psychological stuff behind why you do the things you do. So it's a good time to try to realize things, honestly, Taurus. So going on now to our next sign, that's going to be Geminis. Oh my God, my ear is itching like I cannot imagine anything ever itching so bad. Why? Why does that happen? Is there a spiritual thing behind that? Okay, so for everyone jumping on the live, we're about to do Gemini. We're going through all signs for the Mars entering Aries transit. Hello, Francisca. Welcome. And hello to Josh, who is also jumping on. All right, so we're going to Geminis. For Geminis, we have Mars in Aries in your 11th house of friends, hopes and dreams, and the public connections, right? It may not just be friends, it's people you network with, people you see out and about, groups of other humans. So Geminis during this time, and this is going to be from April 30th to June 9th, might just be busier with social engagements. You might be going to more parties. You might have some professional things you have to do more, or at your current workplace, you might have to be in front of people. You know, this is like someone who works in an office and they end up like hosting the weekly, chairing the weekly meeting for the next 6 weeks, you know, where you're more visible. Your work could become a little more visible at this time because Mars rules your 6th house of work. So if you are in a field where that makes sense, that's possible. But it could also just be the kind of stuff that you're doing is more people related, people centered, more about getting things out to the masses, more about, just like being more connected, more busy, more in the middle of everything. And, you know, this might be more of a professional thing, like to network, you have to go talk to more people, or you're in sales and you're having more conversations. It just feels like your social life is speeding up at this time for Geminis. Now, let's talk more about what that 6th house ruler does in that 11th house. The 6th house is our time, you know, our day-to-day schedule, the work that we've put in, and having it be in the 11th house. I would say this is especially true for artists or people who are like trying to get in the public eye. For some of you, this might be a time where your work is being made available to more people. So let's say you made an app. Well, this might be when the app launches, or the app is already there and now you're getting more in more people's phones. Or let's say you wrote some kind of book that you're turning into something that is more able to be taken in by the masses. You know, the 11th house is the public, so it's like the public can receive your work more, or want your work more, or you're initiating something that will potentially be involving those themes of getting what you do in front of more people. Now, this could be for a job you already have where they're getting their name out there, and because you work for them, it's, you know, it's in your chart where it's like, this is what we're focusing on. We're focusing on taking something that was only available to this many people. Now it's opened up to more people. That's really the biggest thing. Now, Geminis, this is a good time to make friends. You might just want to go do more stuff. You might just want to be more social. You might just want to talk to everyone, or you might have to, especially with that North Node Mercury there. It's just like, even at the time of making this video, which is, I'm recording this on April 27th, that can be like stimulating your desire to just talk to the masses and talk to more people, or expand your reach of who you're reaching when it comes to who you're talking to. Again, this could be something as everyday as the meeting you have at work. Instead of 2 people, now 20 people are coming, you know, or if you're doing a hypnotherapy class once a week and you were getting 5 people, now you're getting 25, right? So it could be something like that as well, where there's just a focus on growth in this sector. All right. Next, the next sign we have is going to be Cancer. For Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising, Mars is entering that 10th house on the April 30th. Now, keep in mind our little chart here shows the next day, because that's how I had to do it to fit all the signs. But it's Mars enters Aries on April 30th. So let's get your timer up, Cancer. Okay, so for Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising, Mars entering that 10th house can bring activity. It can bring action and you just being busier at work. Now, this could be fun busy, where it's like more work comes in, there's more to do, you're juggling more, it's fun, it's exciting. The thing you wanted, the clients you wanted, if you have your own business, you're getting, or the work you wanted, you're getting. But it could also be like you're busier at work because shit is going wrong more. The machines, if you're a nurse, aren't working right, so you got to go do them twice or check them over again, you know, or things like that, where little conflicts make the work be busier rather than just a higher volume of work. And Mars is known to be a pain in the ass, you know. Mars is people who are just like antagonistic and won't quit. So that energy might be showing up in the workplace. especially if you work with other people. This could just be one pain in the ass coworker who's always arguing. It could be your boss getting on your ass about something. If you're a stay-at-home mom, it could be one of your kids is throwing fits all the time, right? So those are some of the potential negatives here. But the potential positives is more activity, more ability to say what you need to say, especially with Mercury hitting that North Node as it has come out of retrograde now. It really gives the potential of having a message to share in some way, or communication being heightened, right? Because not every single person watching this is like, I have a message to share, depending on what kind of work you do. But let's think about that fifth ruler in the 10th. Well, this is going to be kids. So some of you, your kids might be getting awards, or they might be getting in trouble, or they might be in some other way having they're more visible at this time. If you don't have kids, then that's not for you. Sorry. If you're self-employed, maybe you're more visible, right? Because fifth house rules self-employment. So your brand is more being seen, or you're getting more testimonials, or you're getting more shit from people. And even that kind of visibility might be good if you're self-employed, because you get, it gets you some attention. This can also be your creativity being something that you can really use at work at this time, or your creative life force energy. So when I say creativity, I think everyone thinks like painting, but it's not always that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's going to be like using your creativity to solve a problem, using your creativity to develop an app, using your creativity to do things that are going to focus on Mars in the 10th type stuff. One of my keywords for this might be defense. How are you using defense in your work? Maybe that's going to be a possible theme. Defense, protection, boundaries, saying no, cutting certain things out, focusing in on other things, deciding. Those are all going to be keywords for your work life from April 30th all the way through June 9th as Mars goes through that sign. Okay, let's go on to our next sign, which is going to be our Leos. For Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising, Mars in that 9th house stimulates your desire for life to be meaningful. It brings a focus on faith, travel, or learning. And, it can just make your 9th house is like what matters. It's what you learn for your career. And it's also astrology and philosophy and like things that have faith and belief behind them. Mars in the 9th to me in like a natal chart would be like someone who's like a police officer who's very religious, or someone who, I think of like the bailiff or the person in the courtroom who's like the muscle who will throw the people out and has the gun and stuff. I think it's the bailiff. That kind of thing, where you're defending the law or you're defending your belief system. Now, does that mean you're all going to be doing that? Not necessarily. Some of you Leos might be going to court at this time. You have to defend something that way. Some of you might get really into astrology or some other study, spiritual kind of a study, or philosophical or educational type of a study. Some of you might be, I don't know, defending something else. Some of you might feel like your beliefs you need to defend them to someone else, like someone's telling you your beliefs are wrong and you're like, no, or something like that. That could be a thing. Now let's consider that Scorpio is your 4th house. So Mars ruling that whole sign 4th house, that in the 9th might be one of your parents get religious. Maybe one of your parents are debating with you. Maybe it's fun and you guys are having healthy debates during this time and it's fine. Maybe something from your hometown is now attacking your belief system, or someone you grew up with is becoming a pain in the ass, or you have one experience where they're like coming at you. It doesn't mean you can't handle it or anything. And remember, these are all just potentials because everyone has a different chart, so it's going to show up differently. Either way, I think Mars in Aries is going to be positive for Leo because it's in your 9th house. The 9th house is trine the ascendant, right? And so it's probably going to be your beliefs power you to do the things you want to be doing, or to be yourself. And I'm just noticing the sun's in the 10th at this time for you. So it's like some Leos out there might just be really channeling and relying on what you believe in order to have the amount of visibility that you have, or in order to step up to some kind of role or just shine in your career. So this does feel like there's a lot of positive potential here for those Leos to harness. So let's go ahead and go on to our next sign, which is going to be our Virgos. And I need more coffee. Okay. So we're going to do Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Mars entering this 8th house, stimulating the topics of sex, death, or other people's money. Now, one positive, Mars in the 8th, is going to be you possibly taking on the initiative to expand your comfort zone. It's almost like you're attacking 8th house stuff, okay? So some of you might be attacking your debt. You might be attacking your finances, in the sense of like, if you're not in debt, maybe you're gonna put money into a CD or something else like that, right? This is not advice. Please do not ever take financial advice from me. I know nothing. I don't even know what half of this shit is called. But Mars in the 8th, it's like you're gonna attack your debt, you're gonna attack your finances, you're gonna attack the money you owe, or attack money that you can put in with other people, that kind of thing. It might stimulate the topic of sexuality, especially when it comes to intimacy. So it can be sex or intimacy or both of those things, right? They can be separate or intertwined. But this would be, if this is someone who has trust issues, if you need to let people in, you want to be more open, you want to be more connected, this would be a time where Mars might help, but it might help in an asshole kind of way because it's Mars. So this might be someone being like, well, I want you to be closer to me. It might be someone coming after you for not being as close to them as they want you to be, if that applies. Now, it could also be you being like, just more inspired or motivated to let people in, to develop more trusted relationships with people, to, let people know more about your life. Maybe you have a challenge during this time that requires you to open up a little more in order to overcome. Maybe you need to get some people on your side right now. Mars in the 8th can also be things like, it's going to speed up things and create more energy and more focus around things like bonds with other people, and emotional entanglements with other people, and deep connections with people, and psychology. Mars in the 8th isn't really the best for psychologically, because it's like psychological conflict. Now, I am not saying y'all are going to lose your mind this month or this period of time. What I'm saying is that it's like, if there's already a potential for conflict here, maybe something stressful comes up that really causes you to really rely on all of your capability to handle. Maybe something that is psychologically hard might happen. Maybe you're dealing with the topic of death. This may not be you or your best friend or something. Sometimes with people with Mars in the 8th, it's like if someone's dog dies, who do they call? They call the person with Mars in the 8th. Why? Because that Mars in the 8th gives the person the ability to kind of handle those kind of crises. So maybe someone in your life is having a crisis and you are there for them, or you are just nearby and it's happening. Right? So this could be like your roommate's best friend died and you're like walking with your roommate through that situation. Maybe no one's going to die though, so calm down. Do not freak out on me. Everyone's going to be different on this. So what did I say? Sex, death, and other people's money. So yeah, deepening intimacy, deepening connections with people, possibly attacking debt or attacking your financial plan for the future when it comes to like interest and like risky investments. Some of you might be investing at this time, or you might need to take out a loan or something. Others of you, it's your third house ruler in the eighth. So some of you might need to take out a car loan at this time, or pay off something related to your car. That's not going to be everyone, definitely not going to be everyone, but it's that, or maybe the interest starts accruing on something like that. You may not actually be putting the money out there. Again, not everyone. Some of you might just buy a car and that makes sense during this time. Others, for third house stuff, it can be siblings. Now, a sibling could have a crisis or something. A sibling could be relying on you for emotional support during this time, or a cousin or an aunt or uncle. I hate the third house because it's so hard to predict. But I think it's going to deepen communication. I think it's going to deepen conversations where when you would normally have small talk with someone, you're having more deep talk. That's like the big prediction I have for this is small talk becomes deeper talk. Day to day, more casual or lighthearted connections become deeper connections. All right, let's go on now to the next sign, which is going to be our Libras. All right, here we go for Libras. Mars in that seventh house will stimulate relationships, but it doesn't mean that if you're single, you're guaranteed to get in a new one, or it doesn't even mean if you're in a relationship, it'll end. It doesn't have that signification. There are times where that could happen, but I wouldn't predict that just by Mars being here alone. What it does is it speeds up the relationship. And what it does is for Libras who are already in a relationship, you might be bickering more with your partner. You might be fighting about shit. You might have stuff that is difficult that you got to talk about or deal with. Or they might kind of be being a brat right now. Sometimes that's what happens. Your partner turns into a brat when Mars goes through your seventh house. If you have big planets here, when Mars hits that planet, that's going to be a bigger relationship thing probably. If you're single, this can be a friend. A long-term friend turns into a brat or is like pushing you, right? That kind of thing. Now, for some of you, it's like Mars might show up in a more positive way, like you are being athletic with your partner, or you meet someone and you start a relationship with someone who is a firefighter, or they're an athlete, or they're a drill sergeant, or they do something else that's like very physical and involves a lot of movement, and that person is Mars. But we also want to consider that Mars rules your money house. So money goes into your seventh house. That can be more than what you might think. Because some of us are going to think, oh, money going to the second house, you're handing cash to your partner. It could be that. Some of you might be providing your partner with something. But for a lot of you, it's like maybe you're spending money on the relationship, or you're spending money on dating, or you're spending money on things that help you date, right? Things that assist you to, like for ladies, maybe buying makeup if the purpose is to date or something like that, or go out with your partner, like paying for events or something. But if you're not in a relationship, you could be investing in something like with a friend, like going on a trip or getting an Airbnb with a friend. Or you could be investing in, even like seventh house can be like professionals that help us, that are like eye to eye with us, such as therapists or astrologers or like lawyers or accountants. Notice I threw myself in there. But really, like, it's a professional who's like one-on-one that you hire, and they're like on your side to do something. Some of you might just hire someone to do your taxes or something, and it's like that they're the other. It's like it goes in the seventh house. What else could it be? You give your possessions to a friend during this time. You give some of your stuff away. You're getting rid of stuff. You're giving it to others, You're sharing. Those kind of things. All in all, I don't feel like, don't be scared of this transit. If you're someone who tends to think the worst of things, then don't worry about this transit, because I think Overall, Mars in the 7th is just going to speed up relationships, whether they're good, whether they're bad, whatever they already are, you're going to see more of that energy. And if nothing else, just know that, if there's more fighting with partners, then, this would be a time to just know that like it's scheduled. That's on schedule until June. All right. Moving on now to our next sign, which is going to be Scorpios. For Scorpios, we have Mars entering that 6th house. So Mars going into your 6th house is going to probably make you busier. This is one of the transits where you tend to be busier. And usually this one is honestly not quite as fun as the other ones, because 6th house is stuff you have to take care of. It's your chores. It's the things you have to handle that you don't really get anything back for necessarily. It's the work that you have to do. It's like when I think of the 6th house and having more here, it's like you have a longer commute to the same job where you make the same amount of money, or like there's construction on the road, or you have more to do at work, but you're on salary, so you just have more to do. There's no like extra benefit. Sometimes the benefit of 6th house stuff can possibly come down the road, especially if you're working on skills. But like, it could also just be like you have family staying with you and now there's more dishes. You don't get anything for that. You just have more to do. And it's fine, because it's like, it's just, this is a time of having more to do. It's not too long. Now, for some of you, this will be because you're working up to something, right? And there might still be a potential future reward. You might just be working overtime. And it's possible you might get paid for it. But the 6th house planets don't guarantee that. They don't give you the money. The 6th house planets give you the work and the things to do with your time. That's what 6th house planets do. And with the North Node of Mercury here, this does feel like a focal point at this time of like, how do I want to spend my time long term? And this transit of Mars going through the 6th that's going to make you busier might have you thinking about that and asking those questions. Now, what else I see here is that you are Mars. So that means you're in the 6th house. So it's more likely right now from April 30th to June 9th that Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising are going to have some kind of like family obligation. They're going to have some kind of service. Maybe you're being of service to something that's like you're feeding the homeless, or you're doing something else that you feel like is important in the world and it's fulfilling you and you don't need to be paid for it. Maybe you're like helping a sick elderly relative, or maybe one of your kids are sick right now or during this time. And I'm not predicting something horrible. It's just, there is definitely a need to be of service and take care of things and take care of other people that this transit's going to highlight. This could be a time where you get a lot done, because Mars, what the good thing about Mars being in the 6th house is, in ancient astrology, this is the joy of Mars, because Mars kind of likes having shit to do, right? Mars wants to be active. So you're putting Mars in a house where it can just keep having problems to solve, so to speak, which means it means that if there are challenges or things that make you busy or problems you got to solve, Mars can almost like help you do it at this time. You may also be focusing on your diet. This I didn't mention yet, but you might be going on a new kind of doing something that stimulates your habits. Now, this could be literally getting more active every day and adding some cardio into your life. It could be making smoothies and stuff and just putting a lot more focus and limits, because Mars severs and it cuts things, even though it's stimulating that 6th house of like stuff to do. This could be a time where you decide to cut something out of your diet, or you decide to go on a cut, especially if that makes sense to you. This would be more of a cut, less of a bulking time, right? So maybe you're weighing all your macros and your micros and, you don't even do that. But like maybe you're counting your macros and you're weighing your protein and you're making sure you're not overdoing it or cutting out tendencies to be too indulgent. This is only going to be some people. You can also be really efficient with your time because Mars, it focuses to a point, right? So this could be a time where if you are trying to accomplish a lot, Mars can support that activity. And it's really good for that. So it's good for accomplishing things. It's good for taking care of other people. And it's good for kind of just running around all the time and just staying in motion during this time. So that's going to be through April 30th through June 9th for Scorpios. Going on now to our next sign, that's going to be Sagittarius. Comment below, you guys, if it resonates, if what I'm saying makes sense to you. I always love hearing from you. We are on Sagittarius. So for Sagittarius, Mars enters the fun house. I love it when planets go in the 5th house because I get to say that. And Mars entering that 5th house stimulates 5th house stuff like pleasure, like having fun, like sex, relationships, dating. If you're a Sagittarius who, for whatever reason, that area of life has been more on the frozen side of things, this is where that can melt and you can start getting more activity again. So if you're like, when should I start dating? Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising on April 30th is when. And pay attention to things that could happen to sort of kick this off. But if you're trying to have more romance in your life, whether you're with someone or you're single, this is a time to kind of, you can do it. And you might just want to more, you might want to get more romantic with your partner. You might want to even do things that aren't sexual that are fun. You might want to go to a movie or get outside or, do whatever you do for enjoyment with a partner or by yourself. But Mars makes the topic of pleasure, fun, enjoying life more activated. So some of you Sagittarius, maybe something in your life has become stable enough that now you're like, okay, now I have this energy, now I can do it. And for some of you, it might be really a focus on enjoying your time because we got Venus in the 6th at the same time, which is all about like enjoying your time. So some of you Sagittarius may get some time off during this time. Some of you might have a change to your work because we had that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in your 6th house. Now, technically this already happened, but first of all, there's two whole videos on it. So if you want more on that, check that out after this. But it's changing your daily schedule. It's activating something that changes your routine. Now, that could be what you're eating, and Venus being like really eating foods that are like nourishing to you. So it could be you initiating that, or it could be a schedule change that maybe you did or didn't have control over, that now there's more time to have fun with. That's kind of what I feel. Or you're doing more things that are more fun or more active or more interesting, or you enjoy more. Maybe you're just enjoying your job more. Maybe something changed and it's somehow more interesting or brings you more pleasure. Lots of focus on pleasure on this one. So good time though if you're trying to start dating, or good time to, another activity here will be self-employment, right? Because the 5th house rules self-employment. So I'm not saying every Sagittarius needs to start a business right now, but if you're in a business and you're wanting to launch something during this time, this could be a time where that naturally unfolds, or it just makes sense. You might already be wanting to do that. It could also be that you're facing some kind of fear in your business or through dating. Why? Because Mars rules the 12th house of things we don't want to see, don't want to look at, and ways we self-sabotage. So when we have the planet of isolation and self-sabotage in the house of fun, it's like the things we want to do for pleasure might be things that are not good for us. So we have to watch out for that, especially with Venus here, watching out for overindulging in sweets. Because it can go the other way, where maybe instead of tightening in on the diet when Jupiter Uranus hit, maybe it's a sudden, maybe not sudden, but maybe it's a change where you're indulging more. And that could be something to watch out for, because I just see that here. But it could go the other way where it's like the things you're doing for fun require you to face your fears. So it's like you always wanted to climb and now you're going to the climbing wall and you get scared. Totally normal human experience that is going to probably make you a better person if you do it because you know you have the harnesses and stuff, right? So it's like stuff like this where pleasure seeking and facing fears, pleasure seeking, enjoyment and fun sort of commingle with the topic of maybe how you subconsciously hold yourself back. Maybe there's a desire to overcome things that you have subconsciously held yourself back from related to self-employment, things you want to launch in an existing business, things related to having kids or the kids you already have, if you have them, or dating and relationships. I'm thinking the single people is going to apply more. It's almost like if you always date, but you only get to this level, right? Or when you're flirting, you only get to this level. It's learning what you might subconsciously be doing to, especially if you're like, why don't I ever get asked out? Let's just say hypothetically. Well, then you're learning what you're subconsciously doing to not get asked out. And if you're the one who does the asking in this scenario, then what am I subconsciously doing that I'm only asking people to say no? Like, where's the hidden psychological thing? This might be a time where there's things that are uncovered, but it's almost like you don't have to sit around in a circle and sing Kumbaya or go to a therapist for 20 years to figure it out. You can just, it's almost like by taking the next steps, that's going to be revealed as long as you're trying, you're honestly trying. So it's a really a good time, I think, for Sagittariuses to, you know, go out there, have fun, start things. And if you get scared or you have some fears come up, you know, hold your own hand and walk through the fear. I think there's a lot of potential for growth here for Sagittariuses. Okay, going on now to our next sign, which is going to be our Capricorns. Please feel free to comment if that resonated. I always love hearing from you guys. Okay, so we have Capricorns next. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Mars enters that fourth house of home, family, and your house. Also your emotional foundation. So immediately you might get a little more frustrated during this transit. That would be the challenging side of this. But I feel like it's probably more likely to show up as rearranging your furniture, doing things that are physical in your home or related to home, putting in new lights, dusting the blinds, like really deep cleaning them, or like moving things around, or you know, physically getting active or getting outside and changing things in the garden or planting a new tree or putting in a pool, anything like that. It doesn't have to be upgrading the foundation, right? It could just be moving the sprinklers to where you want them, or whatever you do in your home. It's like Mars is going to bring more activity to that. Now, worst case scenario, I guess if you had roommates, maybe that one of them is being an asshole, right? One of them is causing conflict. But other than that, this feels like, that's, unless you live at home where you're really connected to your parents, this could be some conflicting conversations with a parent or parents. But that's not going to be most of you. I think most of you are too old for that, just like me. But you never know. You could still have a conflict with a parent that's just over something you disagree on at some point during this transit. However, overall, to me, this is all going to be about like you having more activity in your home, inside your actual house, moving, or just being busier doing projects at home. Now, Mars rules your 11th house. So this is like dinner parties. This is like getting the pool ready so everyone can come over, or having someone's birthday party at your house or something like that during this time. And the transit is from April 30th to June 9th. So some of you might literally just be having people over or getting ready for a big party or getting ready to take pictures of your home. Now, if you have real estate, this might be different, because if you have real estate, this Capricorn energy, I mean, this Mars in the fourth energy might be just about one of those properties. If you have real estate or you work in property management, it's probably going to be just a busier season for you until June 9th in some way. Now, that could be because you have to tear down something, right? Mars is like cutting things off. Maybe you're selling a property. Maybe you're cutting out one of the wings of the house because it's so trashed. It's like you just demolish that part, cut it off. Maybe you're adding a wall, right? Things that separate, things that sever. Maybe you're killing some bugs. I don't know. But it does feel like the biggest thing for Capricorns is Mars is bringing more activity. And Venus is in the fifth, so it feels like you're still going to have lots of opportunities for fun and pleasure with Venus and Jupiter in the fun house, right? Both benefics with Uranus there. So lots of opportunities as well during this time for like spontaneous fun or like getting wild and crazy or just going and doing things that are enjoyable. So I don't see this transit really stopping you, although it can bring up some conflicts possibly. All right, going on to our next sign, which is now going to be Aquarius. Capricorns, let me know how that lands. If it resonates, I always love hearing from you guys, whether you are on the live or if you're watching afterwards. Okay, so we got our Aquarius is up here, the chart up, and for you guys, we're looking at Mars in that third house. Now, the first thing my mind goes to here is the problems. The good thing about this for you, third house is not a very strong house in the sense of how much power, even though Mars is in Aries, it doesn't have as much power when it goes through the third house because the third house doesn't have as much juice, okay? It just doesn't. Which means even though Mars can be a pain in the ass, it's like it can't do as much to you. It can, but it can't. Okay. So what could happen? Maybe if you have siblings, maybe they're being jerks. Maybe you're arguing with a sibling at this time. Maybe you have a neighbor or a roommate who is kicking you out or cutting you out of something. Maybe, because third house is going to be siblings or roommates or something. So maybe you have a roommate who's getting on your ass or you're getting annoyed with them or they're not letting you have something or they're saying no to you. Maybe you have to leave and move somewhere else. Maybe there's some construction during your commute because the third house can also be like the route we take to work kind of a thing. So maybe the route you take to work at this time just becomes longer or more challenging. Maybe I also think of the third house as like it's like your neighborhood, right? It's your local environment. So what does that mean? It means like the grocery store you normally stop at, the post office, wherever you kind of stop to like get gas or do whatever you do. With Mars going through here, it makes it more of a pain in the ass or like there's more work to do the same thing. So like your normal gas station, it's half the pumps are closed or shit like that. That's like annoying, but what can it do to you? You go to another gas station. It's frustrating, but like you're not gonna, die. You could have problems with your car. That's another thing. Now let's talk about what Mars being the 10th house planet does in the third house. Well, it means that your work can be focusing on neighbors, on roommates, on things that are local. It can be focusing on communication. You might just have to communicate more for your work at this time. You might it's almost like if you normally get a 1 month contract for what you do, maybe you're getting a 1 week and a 1 week and a 1 week and a 1 week. But you still get the same, but it's like it's all in these little pieces and there's just more requests to respond to and handle, if that makes sense. It's like normally you get 10 calls a day. Maybe now you're getting 30 for something. Now this can be great if that's what you're trying to get, if that makes sense. Also, I did not notice this for anyone else, but I'm noticing it for this, which is Mars will be sextiling Pluto. That's for everybody, but it will sextile Pluto. It looks like, let's see what day. On the 3rd. So it's like take an initiative to handle any conflicts that come up at this time, especially May 2nd and 3rd, but even from April 30th. it's like you have the chance to get the upper hand. The actions that you take have the chance to be more powerful during this time. Does not mean you're going to get everything you want, but if you're trying to make a sale, for example, a big sale, maybe this would be a time where if you act on it, you have to act on it though. You can't like let it pass. So like if you're someone who answers requests for whatever you do, I would say May 1st, 2nd, 3rd, make sure you're watching and that you don't miss something, because that's the way this transit's going to work. Is you're going to have to respond in order to have like some kind of bigger potential opportunity or deal or something. And keep in mind that depends on what you do. So factor that in when you're listening. Okay, so that's what I have for Aquariuses. We're going to go on to our next sign, which is going to be last but definitely not least. Oops, shoot, I'm just doing it wrong. Last but not least, Pisces. So let's get to Pisces here. The right way. There we go. Oh, let's move it back. Let's move it back to this day. Nope. It has to be the first. All right. So moving on from Aquarius to Pisces. Aquarius says, let me know in a comment how it landed. I love hearing from you. Okay, what do we have for Pisces? Pisces has Mars in the second house. Okay, here's what I love. I'll tell you what I love and I'll tell you what I hate. I love that Mars stimulates your money because, hey, money, money, money. Money's good. And we like money. What I don't love is sometimes Mars doesn't stimulate it coming in as much as it stimulates it going out. People with this in their natal chart will spend that shit before they make it. It's like it's there in your account and it's gone. So Pisces, try not to spend all your money from April 30th to June 9th. And if you have to get a separate savings account in a different bank that you don't even look at, I mean, do what you got to do. If you have to use your little envelope method and put it away and don't see it, it's like just the potential of burning through your money is higher here. Now, sometimes that can be good. Let's say you're saving up for something big and now you have the money, you can do it, right? It could be something cool like that. Also, for anyone who could make money from something overseas, now that's not going to be everyone. But I'll tell you all the potentials of ninth ruler in the second, because whenever a planet is in the second house, we can get money from the thing of that planet. So it's your money house, which means money from money. That would be like a CD, right? Or like something where you put your money in somewhere and then it just gives you money later. Any kind of savings bond. Or I'm not recommending any of this because I'm old and I don't know shit about money. But like where your money makes money, you know what I mean? Just very simple and straightforward, and there's not a lot of risk. But the ninth house is things like foreigners, foreign languages, publishing. What else? Foreigners, foreign languages, publishing, the law, astrology, philosophy, deep subjects. You could make money off any of that stuff. Now, keep in mind, this transit is going to go from April 30th to June 9th. So think about what in your life, Pisces, maybe you've already done related to that stuff. Did you already write a song? Did you already, do you have potential royalties coming from something from overseas that is already out there? This could be a time where that cashes in, but keep in mind that's not the most likely. The most likely is that you're going to spend money during this time. But if you have already published a book, maybe this is when you start getting sales. If you already have a YouTube channel, maybe you get monetized. If you are already monetized, maybe now your audience grows and you get more from it. Maybe you launch a course and get money from the sale of that course. So keep in mind that, again, this really depends on you and where you're at. Mars in that second doesn't really guarantee more money, but it does guarantee that the topics of like meaningful things and money are combined. So maybe you spend your money, you're more motivated to spend money on courses or on things that you think are going to help you in your spiritual life. Maybe you did get a tax return, or you did get some kind of bonus, and you are spending it on something that's like, makes you feel like life is more meaningful in some way. This could also just make you more focused on what you physically have. You know, you could like do things that aren't really that much about money. That, for example, let's say you want to organize your closet. Maybe you go buy a bunch of closet organizers and you just use your money to do something that makes you busy. That's like, it's focusing on your things and what you have and what you own. Maybe you're able to buy more of a thing you like to buy, down to the food in your fridge. Maybe one of your roommates moves out and now you have more room in your fridge and you buy a bunch of food, right? So it could be any area of your possessions, any area of your money that you end up focusing more on. Maybe someone steals your shit and you get pissed and you have to do something to keep them from doing it again, and you put up some defenses against your money. Maybe that happens. I hope not. But there can be some things that are happening that just make you focus more on what you have, what you own, and probably how you want it to grow. And I expect that we'll be talking about this again when Mars hits the North Node, because that's a time where there's probably going to be a really, really big focus on money for Pisces at this time. Yeah, like maybe one big sale or something, something bigger, focus on money. Again, I can't see whether it's like coming in or going out, but who knows? Maybe you save up for a deposit on a place and then you end up being able to get it, right? Especially with Saturn in that first house, bringing you back to this more higher levels of responsibility. I also see Venus in the third, possibly bringing more love or more enjoyment or more sensuality to your local environment. It's almost like your neighborhood or even your house or your roommates that you live around somehow become more enjoyable. Maybe you guys get a campfire or a pool or something inside that's like really nice and just enjoyable, and you want to like spend time with everyone. It does feel like this can be positive for that as well, with Venus entering that third house. Or you're just having more really nice conversations with people. And who knows, maybe you're selling too, and that's why that money is stimulated. It could be separate, together, or pretty much anywhere in between. So that is what we have for Pisces. So I'm going to check on the comments now and see what you guys are saying. All right, so I'm back up at Lene. I see Lene's comments here. I have Mars and Aries in my 10th. I'm used to this energy. Yeah. So sometimes that will be, if you have Mars and Aries in your natal chart, actually, this will be a Mars return. So every planet returns back to where it started at some point, and people with Mars and Aries is going to be their Mars return right now. So that means that it's kind of like the end of a Mars cycle and the beginning of a new one. Everyone should know all their cycles of all their planets and where the planets are at every single given time, because just knowing this, you don't even have to understand the astrology to get value out of this. So let's talk about why. Whoops. I wanted to do this. Okay, let's talk about why you need to know the cycles of your planets at every given time. So let's just say you do have Mars in, let's say you have Mars in Scorpio, like me. Mars in Scorpio means that the last time Mars was in Scorpio, there was a new beginning related to Mars for you. Every time a planet meets up with itself, the planet on the outer wheel meets up with the planet in your chart, and they're at the same place, that's called a return. So when Mars meets up with your Mars, that's called a Mars return. Are you guys following me? Comment below, yes, I'm following you, if you get what that means. So if you have Mars in Taurus, every time Mars enters Taurus, you have a Mars return. But the thing is, there's so much more to this. There is a whole cycle. And I think we should do this now because it'll be fun to look at the Mars cycle. Do you guys want to do that right now? I think it would be so fun. I could talk about these cycles forever because it's something that you can learn you don't have to study astrology for a bazillion years to understand when Mars is in Taurus, when Mars is in Scorpio, right? You just have to be able to follow the transits. So let's do it. Let's do a little Mars demonstration here. I'm just going to put Mars on the chart. I'm taking everything else off so we can look at it. And we're going to go to, let's find a chart. Let's find someone famous. Let's see, whoops, public charts. I kind of want to pick someone. You know who I want to pick is one of my charts, and that's going to be, let's do Nikki Glaser. This is A because I wanted to keep it up above, if you're wondering. So Nikki Glaser has Mars in Scorpio. That's why I'm picking her, because I know that people right now with Mars in Scorpio are going to have, oh my gosh, that's not right. It's not a square. Oh my God. I said that earlier. Okay, so forget I said that. And I don't want to pick her. I'm going to pick someone else, but that's fine. I do tend to say shit wrong all the time. Let's see. Why is everyone has Mars in Scorpio? We're just going to do Mars in Scorpio then. So what I said about it being square is totally wrong because that's wrong. So, but let's just start with the last time Mars was in Scorpio. So we're just going to go back to that moment. This is the chart of comedian Matt Rife. I was checking him out because he went viral and I wanted to see what happened, and his yod was activated. It was crazy. But here we go. Back on October 2023, Matt Rife had his Mars return. Do you guys follow this? Does this make sense? That means I have all the planets I made invisible for this. That means Mars going around in the sky was at the same place as when he was born. And because Mars is roughly a 2-year cycle, it's not exactly 2 years, roughly every 2 years, Mars will come back to where it started. But this moment isn't the only moment. So what happens during this part of the cycle is new shit related to Mars happens. What does that mean? Well, it means like new beginnings related to our goals and our desires. New beginnings in relationships doesn't mean you get a new partner every 2 years. New beginnings of what you're going to fight about. It really kind of does show us a little bit because Mars rules fighting. So what are you going to fight about, or what are you going to fight for the next 2 years? You might see themes of that when Mars hits your natal Mars. So how do you understand what this means? Well, one way is to go look up what does Mars in Scorpio mean. But that's not really going to tell you what's happening in your life at this time. Your life is going to tell you what's happening in your life at this time. So at this time, you can see, okay, back on October 15th, 2023, what was beginning for Matt when it came to, well, we're looking at 7th house stuff, so that's relationships, contracts, friends, other people in his life. So then we go to the square, which is not Aries. I don't know what's wrong with me. I said that multiple times, and that was incorrect. It's Aquarius. So when Mars was at 2 degrees of Aquarius, that was the first square. So that doesn't just mean, oh, Mars is square Mars, and that's it. We have to think about the only true way to understand what happened in Matt Rife's life in February of 2024 is to understand what was happening in October at the beginning of the cycle, because This will be the first major challenge to whatever was starting at that point. And then we can go to the trine. The trine, as you can see, how do you know it's a trine? You know it's a trine because they're both in the same element and they're at the same degree. So we find that moment. At this moment, the payoff comes from the challenge you overcame at the square. So in March, what's the payoff? What's the easy thing? What is letting up? What's becoming more doable in his hopes and dreams? Maybe he's reaching his hopes and dreams more since March. Now going on to the upcoming transit, how do we know how Mars in Aries is going to affect Matt Rife? Well, he could watch his, I don't think he's going to watch this. He could watch his horoscope report for Taurus. But what really we could do is we could see what happens on May 3rd, because the quincunx to natal Mars is going to be a moment for him personally where it ties back to this cycle, to whatever was starting in October. And it's something kind of awkward, like, this is uncomfortable. Also, Mars being in the 12th house brings more topic on things like privacy or not getting enough privacy, because it's like, with the quincunx, it's like it doesn't connect. Things aren't connecting. So then we can go and we can do this for the whole cycle and see when Mars hits all these different points. And what we end up with is we end up with a story and a reference point to understand the original beginning that this transiting planet is referencing over and over and over. Okay, so then we can see the opposition where he's going to need, this is going to be for him in June? Right, so the opposition for him is June 13th, June 12th. So what's going to happen? He's going to have some kind of opportunity that puts stress on his relationship, probably, most likely. Or whatever happened in October, now there's a big boss moment, right? There's a boss battle where he'll probably have to assert his independence from something that was like a contract that was signed back in October, or a person he was connected with at that time, or a company or something. Lots of energy of him versus the world here, him versus the other person. And then we have, right, we can keep going. Well, we look at the next trine. We could look at the next quincunx. There's going to be an awkward moment there too. But the next trine is going to be when Mars goes to 2 degrees. And now Mars in Cancer is making a trine to that Mars in Scorpio. So this is how we do astrology. We don't just say, oh, you have Mars in Leo right now, and everyone is going to do this too. We can do that with some things in the world, but we have to see what relationship that planet has with everything else in our chart and know all the reference points to refer back to. So this is why astrologers need you to talk to them and be able to answer questions about what happened in your life at this time, because that's how we know what's going to happen next. So when Mars hits 2 degrees of Cancer and trines that 2 degree Mars in Scorpio, well, maybe there'll be a positive thing that comes out of this. That's not until September. And then we'll just fast forward. We're going to skip that final square all the way to, Mars goes retrograde. Then we got to keep going back to where it started. So then when Mars comes back to where it started, then we have the Mars return. So can you see how this is totally different than just a report? Can you see how we have to really understand what the planet means to begin with and what it means for you in your life and all the different phases it's going to go through? So that was our quick little lesson. The thing is that anyone can do this. anyone can do looking at your chart and looking at when a planet hit another planet. And this is one of the biggest benefits of astrology, is that you can actually look and see what happened in the past. And based on how those planets showed up in the past for you personally, you can come to a prediction of what could possibly happen in the future. Imagine how much nicer life would be if you knew that the challenge you're having in 3 months is actually a challenge you already solved 6 months before. At least it's going to be the same thing coming up and you already have the wisdom to handle it. Imagine knowing that this is a time where you have a new cycle. So if you want to have a breakthrough, you want your life to change, that it'll be more important at this time to react differently. Imagine being able to know every single time that happens. That's one of the things astrology can help us with. So if you're jumping on the live and you're wondering what sign we are on, we did go through all the signs for Mars and Aries. And if you want more on the energy, you can always still watch that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction video that I did, because that energy is still going to be active for a good month or so. So feel free to check that out. I also recently, I'm going to show you guys another thing that you can check out, which is going to be, let me see if I can show you, just show you on the channel. That is going to be share this tab instead. Okay, so here we go. We're just gonna do it. Let's make sure it's showing. Yeah, okay, so here's what you can do on my channel. There's so much content. So you can go to the channel. If you go to playlists, you're not going to see all these because some of these are my private ones, but I created a new playlist for you guys on the North Node. So you can go to the playlist.
Did you know that collagen has a twin?
Stop. All these videos are on it. On everything I've done on the nodes. And I actually have a bunch of other playlists that you can check out besides this one. So there's also, what else is there? Most recent videos. That's where the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction videos, you're going to find those. But if you want career and money, if you want relationships, if you want aspect patterns, rising sign, love your rising sign, I have all these playlists I made for you guys. Chiron through the signs, past lives. So whatever topic you're most interested in, look, they just keep going. Some of these are private. I wish I could make them not show. They're just like videos I've watched. But like, you can watch your rising signs, Saturn through the signs, Jupiter through the signs, your life purpose in astrology, everything. You can watch everything on here. So just know that that is always an option to just go binge watch my channel like crazy anytime you want to. But no, I did, you know, we are done with Mars Mars and Aries through the signs. We did every sign, and you guys have the timestamps will be up later for that. You can also book a private reading with me using the link in the description. I currently don't have any openings. I'm going to open my schedule today. If you have been waiting for that, today's your moment because I'll be doing that right after this live. So if anyone's waiting to get in, it will be opening up, and they're first come, first serve. So that's how that goes. If you want to be notified for that, get on the email list, and you will get a email when I open up my schedule so that you will be the first to know, except for today because I announced it here first. But just for those of you who always want to be in the loop, that's an option too. Okay, so I hope you guys have a good weekend. I hope you are enjoying Mercury being out of retrograde as much as I am. And I will see you beautiful souls in the next video. Bye, guys.